Got it. Okay. Okay, guys, now we got to behave ourselves. The recordings.
We have the
There's
brain,
evidence now.
the brain
Yeah.
trust that together there. They can figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys, wish I was there. But,
Yeah. Well,
Rick.
yeah.
you know, I talked to Barry and Dottie. Well, Barry's, if he feels better, he'll come have lunch with us.
If not, Dottie will come.
Dottie says she's coming, even if Barry doesn't. So,
Okay. When y'all want to do?
well, they're in town until next Thursday.
Tuesday.
Or Sunday is Mother's Day, so
Yeah.
we either be Saturday, Monday, or Tuesday, I guess.
About Tuesday.
Saturday. No, we can't do it Saturday.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
Whatever's better for y'all. I'd like Tuesday sounds good, but this is what y'all want.
Okay.
Just
All
talk,
right.
talk about it. Let me and Barry know. And all.
All right.
Hey, Billy, do you perform Mother every year for Bonnie?
Not anything like what's his name? You know, I don't. Yeah, but I've
Sure.
done it before. I did it for my
Oh,
mom many years ago. You know, and I
You were our
I
version.
wrote a
Keep
version
that
of it.
talking.
I even wrote a version of it for my dad, Father. You know, Father's Day. You know, but we had to leave. I had each of my brothers and sisters be one of the letters. There's only 5 of us, so we left after FATHE. And the last tag was, we need one more kid to finish this song.
Father.
Yeah, Faz. Put them all together. They spell Faz. Okay. So everybody, Rick, you and Sandra's going to come on Tuesday. Then we'll get together.
Whatever's good best for y'all.
Tuesday's fine. Okay.
Okay.
All
Where?
right.
When?
Um,
Talk about it. Let me know, or so whatever y'all want.
yeah. Okay. And we'll let Miss Dottie know. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Pop up a couple more pictures that people sent in while they're on my hard drive here. Let me see. We just did that one. Let's see. This one we've had before. Let's see. The Ira Mobile.
Oh yeah.
2 Iras and is it Marty or?
Yeah, who's in the car with the 2 Iras, Barry? Do you know?
It might be Rick Fuller.
That's
Yeah,
Ron Fuller.
Fuller. That's Ron Fuller.
Ron Fuller.
Ron
That's
Fuller.
what Iris said.
Okay.
He was the manager of the New York club for a while.
Okay. And we also have one with
Steve Yoakum, Marty Fay, and Ira Gutman.
yeah. Let's see, gotta find it. That's the
And
problem.
Ira Decker.
Everything gets buried in here. Okay, we'll move everything around. Don't bury.
Somebody's call.
I'm having to do things a little differently today. Where's the heck? There's the screen sharing. Stop share. Makes it easier. Okay. And here. Did I show it on already? Barry, Danny, and Steve.
Steve Yoakum.
Kiddo.
What year was that, Barry?
I really don't know. Probably in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Was it in New Orleans, y'all together, or what? The pumpkin class, you did a 5K that year, it looks like.
Well, Fanny Smith keeps calling me, and I keep sending him the links, but I don't know if they're getting through to him because he keeps calling and saying he doesn't, and they keep kicking back. Now today it didn't kick back, so maybe he'll join us.
Okay. I'm just closing some of these things. I couldn't even see my screen anymore. Okay.
So Ken, have you heard anything from Mike Johnson?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went and saw him last Friday, and he was in pretty bad shape. They had given him some heavy medication, and he was in and out of consciousness. We sat and we tried to talk. We had tried to. I left him my digital recorder, and I was going to try like 2 weeks ago, wanted to ask him questions and all these wonderful stories. And we never ended up, when I was there, he never felt like talking because he's the COPD. And so he was going to try to do it 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and he just never quite got to it. And so he wanted to try to do it on Friday, and his sister was there. And then he just kind of came in and out of consciousness. So I sat with him for, I don't know, an hour or so. And to be honest with you, I thought he might be checking out right then when I was there. And which would have been kind of an honor to be with him to do that. I think that's it's an interesting, strange, blessed event to go to wherever we go. I talked to the hospice people, and they said that he was headed, to nobody's surprise, he was headed toward the end. And it could be any minute, hour, day, said maybe even a week. So I talked to his sister on almost daily, and on Monday she said he was a little better than he was on Friday. And he said they had a team meeting on Tuesday, and then I got a text this morning from her that said declining more each day, some confusion, sleeps more at night, especially after liquid morphine. Some relatives have been visiting, and we both kind of said, yeah, it's getting close to the end. So I may or may not go see him again. I said my goodbyes to him and thanked him for being a good friend for 50 plus years. And so it's near the end, and, he told me that he was ready. So I think
Yeah.
I think if we can choose the way we exit this planet, that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
I think it's
But
much sadder for the people who are left behind than those who are going, in all my experience. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had sent me a picture of him a while back. I think he liked this picture in particular. So
looks so young with a non-great beard, as all of us do.
Yeah.
yeah, well, don't all of us think of ourselves as being a lot younger than we are? I just get that jolt when I look in the mirror.
Yeah, my mind is young. My body says, well, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
That was familiar. Yeah.
I have an old clip we could play. It's from the, let me see if I can find it again. From the 50th reunion, but when the band was playing upstairs. And I think, well, of course, I don't see Mike or Gim or anybody here right now, but let me just go find it. Just take me a second.
Well, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Great.
I had a great time in Dearborn, Michigan,
Oh yeah. The
playing a
banjo-
lot of old tunes.
Yeah, you were playing up there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that's
had
cool.
a banjo convention, if you will, the NAIBC, North American International Banjo Convention.
Wow.
They were very disappointed though, because it's declining, both in terms of the number of people who are there to play and the number of people who are there to watch. They've partially fund this thing by having 3 concerts over the course of the weekend. And on the last night, when you thought, it would be like the biggest turnout, it was the smallest turnout, and a little disappointing to some of the headliners who were there, who thought they were going to be, starring in something. And all of a sudden it's like, 20, 30 people, and that's it. So,
What kind of music were they playing?
all the old mustache stuff.
Mustache stuff?
Except for the people who are, the sort of the real banjo soloists, guys like Buddy Wachter and whatnot. They play everything. They play Rachmaninoff. They play, a lot of.
That would have gone all good at the mustache, huh? Everybody sing along.
Yeah, right. But we had players like that too. Guys like Johnny Ford and even Ronnie Bill. Ronnie Bill could play anything. And in some ways, I think he preferred that to Heart of My Heart and 5'2".
Yeah.
But you know, the rest of us knew that's what the people wanted to, they wanted to sing. They wanted to, whatever. They didn't care if you could play, you know, all of this fancy classical music on your banjo.
Yeah, well, I remember didn't Gim do Rhapsody in Blue at the 50th?
He did.
That's a tough one for the banjo.
Oh, yeah.
But here's a regular mustache music upstairs at the 50th reunion.
Well, that's a heck of a clip.
Yeah.
Hey, Emily, were you around during the 50th?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, no.
No, that was wife number 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
I
you,
was-
because there was that still photographer taking pictures, and I often wondered where they all went to.
Uh, I don't know. Brian says, or well, Andy Rubinoff. You remember Andy Rubinoff? Did you meet him? He's the man who played the piano at the memorial service.
I didn't go.
Well, that's true. But
Chris was there.
anyway, he's a long time friend of Joel's, and he's a pianist. And he used to play all over town. You know, for all different organizations would have him come to play. And he said Joel would just meander over whenever he felt like it with his banjo, and they would play together. So they're dear friends. And so he has a whole lot of photographs that he was going to send to us.
Oh, that would be good because that
Yeah.
guy was taking nice pictures. You know, he was taking
Yeah.
Fanny
Put
Smith.
them in our archives. Yeah, but they're may not be mustache photos, but you know, they're
Yeah.
Did anyone know Russ Brody? Never heard of him?
I remember.
He had tons of photographs and of the mustaches. He used to go around to the different clubs and take things. He lived up in Boston.
Yeah, he came down and stayed with me a couple of years.
Do you have his email or anything?
Yeah, Fred had asked me to. I said, sure.
Because if you could send Billy or I his email, we could write him a note and ask him if he had any of those pictures, because we keep doing the same pictures over and over again.
I tried to send some today that I didn't get on in time.
There was a little brief shot of, well, certainly there's a lot of Franny, a little shot of John McLaren,
Yeah.
and who else was? Bill Dern. He was in the early part of that thing before Peter Babcock stood in front of him.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I didn't really know many of the band members from the other clubs. You know, I just was panning back and forth trying to get everybody. Got some of Snake too far to the left too, because the band was just kind of sitting in a
Big wide circle.
Yeah.
Gene LeBeau was playing. Who was playing the tuba on the left hand side? Was that?
I didn't know what that was.
It's Peter Veronides.
No,
I think it was Peter. Yeah.
that was Peter.
Yeah, it was Peter.
Wow.
Here's an old facade from Your Father's Mustache, early 70s, Mardi Gras. Marty Fay had sent that in a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
It's like an old Schlitz station wagon in front of it.
Put you guys on.
Our friends.
Look how long that car is.
Really? I didn't know that to haul kegs around sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, let's see. That was there's another picture, a couple pictures from that Mardi Gras. Oh, here's one where Rick, I'm gonna embarrass you again.
Uh-oh. Oh, me and Mary.
There's Mike Johnson behind you.
Mike
Johnson.
Johnson behind
Mike and Mary Ferber, yeah,
and Mary Berber.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
Did you ever get that rouge off your nipples there, Rick?
That's not.
Was that just a good Saturday night or was that Mardi Gras?
Mardi Gras,
That-
because Mike Johnson was in town for it.
Yeah.
He's standing between Rick and Mary. Yeah, Mary Verber, she used to spell her name Merry.
Yeah. There's a little Rizzo's promotion in the background.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Got a lot of pizzas out of there.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
So
the
Rick,
ba-
Rick, go ahead.
What?
Rick, I was gonna say, were you working head waiter at that time, or
That was probably it was in 73, so I'll be intending bar.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I get the joke.
And that was the year that Mike came down from Denver, 73.
Yeah.
He said it was 73 one time when he was on here. I hadn't seen I saw Mary Berber one time at Pat O'Brien's little sidebar about a year after the club burned down. ran into her. She hadn't changed a lot at that. I don't know what's ever happened to her in the long run.
And here's a couple of pictures, it's like one of those before and after pictures.
Yeah.
And let me get the other one up. This is after the Rogaine.
Good one.
Well, there are two mafia dons there.
He made us an offer he can't refuse.
Barry and Danny have known each other quite a while, huh, Barry?
Yeah. We're 14 years old and we're in our 70s.
Really? Wow.
56 years.
Isn't that drinking age in New Orleans?
Plus for us,
No, 12 is.
Yeah, I was gonna say more like 12.
12, okay.
If you're with your parents, of course.
Yeah, I'm just popping up some pictures we probably seen before, but may not have seen lately.
Oh,
That's nice.
Is the news still working in New Orleans, Barry?
yes, she is.
Yeah, she did. She was in. She did the
Yeah.
Quarterfest.
Yep.
What does she do for the French Quarter Fest? She play banjo? Or?
She's a singer. She has a backup group.
Okay.
She mostly sings. She can dance a bit too.
She also played at Jazz Fest this year. One day, I don't know when it was. I remember seeing her on the schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
She posted some pictures on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who these people are. One Marty Fay had sent me these pictures. In fact, I've got some from where'd it go? Here. Something in,
New Haven, no.
I guess it's New Haven, but I'm not sure who the
this
caterer is. Or-
Irma.
Who'd you say?
North Haven.
North Haven. Yeah, North Haven. That might have been Joel for mayor headquarters. That's what it says. All you can see is for mayor headquarters in the back of it.
Yeah. At the convention, there was a tuba player who was the tuba player at Joel's service. His name is Abby.
Arthur Hovey.
Hubby.
Hovey.
Art Hovey.
Yeah.
He's pretty
Nice
good.
guy.
Very nice guy. He did all the sound things. He didn't like Joel very much, so he turned down Joel's mic.
Well, it was one of those things where, if you're the only tuba player at a convention like that, you got to play like 24 hours a day. Everybody needs you to be in their group.
Yeah, that's what Danny was commenting on about the band. All the banjo players were talking. He said, I play tuba. They need me every song.
Exactly.
Yeah. Here's a.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good bunch.
Yeah. Another one of Barry Kaiser's photos. He used to shoot things that made it look real old timey. It's
Yeah.
kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. You got several of those. Yeah.
That really was old timey, though, wasn't it? How many years ago? 50 plus?
I guess
74.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My
51.
kids see my pictures from when I was a kid. They're black and white. He says, they didn't have colors back then? So, that's right. We were all black and white everywhere.
Well, the
But
black
some of
and
these
white were.
pictures that Barry Kaiser shot. You can see Barry Kaiser in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Let's show. We'll see if we can find another video clip here. This was a more recent one. This is from the Joel's memorial service. The leader of the Galvanized band relates a nice story about Joel. In case you haven't heard it yet, it's kind of funny.
So I met Joel in 1964 at the Ambassador Restaurant in Hamden. We were playing a concert there, and there was a chatter in the room about the possibility that the Joel Schiavone, the wealthy business entrepreneur who began opening YFM restaurants all over the country, would be there. Yes, celebrity status. At the end of the concert, Joel came up to the bandstand, thanked everyone for the music. I felt like I just met Frank Sinatra. We remained friends for that. After that, where'd I go? He continuing to follow my music, me going to the YFM joints and having a blast, the time of your life, as they say. In 1973, Joel joined the seven-piece Galvanized Jazz Band on the altar of St. Vincent de Paul's Church in East Haven for my wedding. Shortly thereafter, Joel became the Galvanized Jazz Band regular banjoist, and everything changed. The fans flocked to the Mill Pond Tavern to see Joel perform with us, to participate in Joel's famous medleys. Another added benefit, he got us gigs at every college in Yale. He was a fabulous MC, entertainer, and the ideas, oh my God, they just kept coming. New tunes, band t-shirts. Let's collect flags from all over the world. Let's plan some anniversaries. Always trying to make things better, happier, more fulfilling. So it was so exciting to be around Joel and sharing the success and adventures running for governor, controller, mayor of New Haven. He would have been so good as a politician, but not in the cards. So he rebuilt New Haven, the Palace Theater. So we're doing a concert at the Palace Theater. And the audience, there are 2,000 people there. They're going crazy. We're playing the Sheik of Araby. And now, when I say they're going crazier than I ever heard before. I mean, I thought we were doing well, but not that well. So I turned around, and there was Joel in a Sheik's outfit, sitting on a fully grown camel. Who does that? Where the hell do you get a camel? What do they cost? I wouldn't know where to begin. So we're just going to do a little tune to remind you of that, the Sheik of Araby, and you'll notice that the words are a little bit changed, and you guys know who's singing, right? Yeah, get your mics. Joel, he always loved to change lyrics. He said, I don't like what the composer said. I'm going to change it myself. So we changed the words a little bit. So the Sheik of Araby. Guys, we'll play one in, and then we'll sing one, and then we'll do a nice retard at the end, okay?
Bring on the camel.
There's Chris.
Yeah.
Sheiks of Araby, your love belongs to we. At night when you're asleep, into your bed we'll creep. You creep. The stars that shine above will light our way to love. You'll rule this land with we, 'cause we're the Sheiks of Araby. We'll rule this land with we, 'cause they're the Sheiks of Araby. They cut me short.
That's nice.
So Chris,
That was really good.
How did you start playing banjo? Did you do it before?
No, I was a folk singer in Greenwich Village, hanging around there and singing songs from Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie and all of that stuff. So I did have some stringed instrument, but the guys at school at Fordham said to me, "You ought to get a job down at the Mustache. You can make $35 a night in tips." So I went down, and they didn't have any room for. The manager was a big Viking of a guy named Keith Ramsdell, and Keith said, "We don't need waiters. We got waiters up to my armpits. But we could use a banjo player." And I was so desperate. I said, "Well, I play the banjo," and he said, "Okay, go ahead and play." And I said, "I didn't bring my banjo," and he says, "They have extras." So I went up on stage. It was Ron Bizel and somebody else on side, and I just sat in between them. And when they moved their hand up and down the string, I moved mine on the banjo that they gave me. But I didn't hit the strings with my pick because I didn't know what I was doing. And but I sang all the songs because I knew them. And when we got off, he asked Ron Bizel, who had not been paying a bit of attention to what was going on. He said, "Ron, how'd the kid do?" And Ron said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, he's good. He's good." And so Keith says, "Okay, you're hired." And then he said, "You got to come in a couple of nights and learn he gave me a list of the medleys. And he said, "You got to come in and listen and take notes and figure out what keys they're in and whatnot." Meanwhile, I ran home and asked my father if he knew where my Uncle Frank's old banjo was. And he says, "Happens to be under the bed." So I got the banjo out. It needed a new head and new strings. I took it to the store, and the guy put the head on it, and he wanted to buy it, but I'm luckily I had nothing. It wasn't mine to sell, and I bought a Mel Bay chord book, and and a fake book, and I just started learning the tunes. And they sent me to Philadelphia.
And you learned them in a week?
Pretty much.
Wow.
enough. Well, I sort of confessed to French when I got there. I said, "Look, there's three things I got to tell you. Number one, I don't have any money." And so he takes a big wad of money out and he hands me like $100. And he says, "There, that ought to cover it." I said, "I don't have any place to live." He said, "Could I stay here in the club?" And he says, "Don't worry about it. I had a bedroom in my apartment. You can welcome to it." I said, "Well, the third thing is that I don't know how to play the banjo." And he said, "What the fuck? You'll learn." In his inimitable fashion.
Yeah.
So George was very kind to me in that, and put up with me for the weeks that it took until I could actually play some of the songs. But having played the guitar, I understood chord theory and that there had to be chords behind, and that the chords changed within a key and stuff like that. So it was a little easier, and there was only 4 strings, not 6. So that's how I got started. I was desperate.
And
I
Neil,
lied.
who was your buddy a lot, because you had a car together and stuff. How did he play the trombone when he got there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Neil was already playing. So it was the following summer that Neil and I really got together, because they sent us to down to the Jersey Shore to play at Point Pleasant. And I won't even go into the story about where we stayed, but we did buy a car together. We bought first we bought a 1957, what the hell was it? It was a Lincoln Continental, but it wasn't a Continental. It was Lincoln something or other in 1957. The biggest car I've ever seen in my life. And we thought it was perfect. It was $150. And we didn't even get from there to the corner in this car. We started it, and we drove off, and then it just died. And we walked back and said to the lady, "Come on, this car, it doesn't work." So she gave us some money back. Then we went and bought a 1953 Chrysler Windsor Deluxe. It was the first Chrysler that had an automatic transmission, which I needed because I can only drive with an automatic. I can't do shifting. And and that's what we drove around in all summer long, back and forth to Neptune,
You
where our
drove because Neil
our
didn't
house was.
drive, did he?
Oh no, Neil never. That's why we called him Maps. He was the one who had to
Yeah.
get us where we're going. You know, and he would get a map, and he would go like this. He had to hold it so close to his face, but he would tell us where to go: left turn, right turn, and all this. And
He was your Google, huh?
yeah, I mean, he was my Google map, and we would drive all around the Jersey area, and then we would drive down to Summers Point too, and play down there, because there were the two clubs on the Jersey Shore.
Because Jeff talked about walking past the club, and Joel saw him with a banjo in his hand or something. And I don't know if Jeff knew how to play either. But Gim, how did you get into the club?
He was the very first one to hire.
Yeah, you were the first one they hired. So
I was number one. Yeah, I was employee number one.
were you a banjo player at the time?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's what the. No, I'm talking to the boys in I met Joel at a cocktail party back in 1961 somewhere. Then after I graduated, I joined the Army, and he found me, and so we played a little bit in '62, and then the open club.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Carl Lunsford came along after a while, and what was the kid's name? Jake Powell from Harvard, and by then Neil Craig Grant was on board. I'm trying to remember any of the others. Tex Wyndham would play with us on weekends. He was going to law school at the time. That's about all I can remember about that. That was the Boston club. Then I moved to New York at 64.
And Ira, how did you become the manager of the New York club?
Of New York?
Yeah.
I started as a waiter
Oh.
with, what was his name? Oh, what was the manager's name? Ed Flint was the manager. Then I think it was, I forgot who came in there, but I know Ron Fuller was there. Then Ron left, and me and Ira Gutman were there. So we said, okay, we'll both do it together. And that was it. But Gim, didn't Bill Hick, you played in Point Pleasant, right?
I played there a couple of times. I wasn't
too.
a regular. If they needed help, I went down.
Okay. So you knew Alan Koval. I think he was a waiter there.
Sounds familiar. I couldn't pick him out of a crowd.
Yeah, he was friendly with Bill Higby, the banjo player.
Bill, I knew very well.
Yeah, Bill was a great guy.
Yeah, he was fun.
Yeah. He came to me. He wound up playing in New York.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Barry started as a waiter too in New Orleans. And Barry, did you play the banjo then, or did you just learn?
I used to fool with it in my dad's den because he had a banjo. And I really wasn't good at it or anything. And one night, Wes Mix called in sick. I was waiting tables at the Mustache. Wes Mix called in sick. They said, "Can you get up there and play?" I said, "Yeah." The next night, Roger come up to me and said, "Look, I watched what you did last night. We're going to send you all around the United States and Canada." I said, "That'd be nice, but y'all don't pay me enough to do that. I don't have any money." Roger said, "No, we're going to pay you." I said, "Sure." And the next thing I knew, 2 days later, I was on a plane to New York.
Wow.
That's kind of like the old story. Can you play low and far away?
Roger, you remember all that?
Yeah, I certainly do. These are the fun times, man.
Is that when you came up to New York with Danny?
No, I know. That was 72.
Right.
When I came up there and Roger set that up for the show band. When I came up with Danny, that was 75.
Right. The year before the club closed.
Well, right before it closed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, burnt in 75.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about the New York club.
Oh,
Yeah.
And David, how did you get into your father's mustache?
I got the job as the bookkeeper, and when I was going to Loyola, and after the bookkeeper job, while bookkeeping, then they did the melodrama, and I got the job acting. And then at some point, I guess everybody was hard for managers, and they got LaRue and me.
And then
Who was
Rick,
the manager then, Dave?
Dave was the manager.
Yeah,
Oh,
eventually
okay.
LaRue left. Yeah,
But who was the manager before you?
Fred.
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 Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Fred. Yeah.
Fred.
and was Fred the manager when you came, Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't there. Rick and I got hired one day apart, and Bruce Wilson was filling in.
Yeah, for David you had surgery, right, David? I think it was or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruce and LaRue were there. I remember that.
Yeah, Rick, I don't know if your experience was like mine. I just showed up to apply. It was just not long before Mardi Gras, and my friend Tommy told me they're looking for waiters, and so I showed up, and my interview went, "Do you have a white shirt and black pants?"
Same.
I said, "Yeah," and he says, "Come tonight."
Yeah.
Boom.
Same thing. I was just down there. I was looking. I just happened to be looking at the door and came in for a bit and then applied the next day. So, yeah, sure. Talked to Fred and then Bruce Wilson.
Well, Roger and Fred came to the club same as Kent and I did, and we ended up just coming to the club because we liked the music, and then we ended up getting jobs.
Remember,
Roger,
Barbara?
tell us about how when you met Joel, didn't he say you were you were the best audience or something?
Who are you talking to?
You.
Oh, yeah.
You're Roger,
Only
aren't you?
Roger
Hey,
here.
thank you. Let me look at my screen. Yeah, that's me. I was going to school in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And of course, Fred and I went to high school together. And he was living in New Orleans with his brother, who was a pastor at the Baptist Seminar. And Fred said, "You need to come on down to New Orleans. It's great." I went down and listen, we got to go to this place. They sing music every night. We know all the songs. Because Fred and I were in choir together also. And I said, okay, so we went down there and started having a blast and singing and sitting right in front of the band. And we didn't know the band members, but then we left next night. So let's go back to the Mustache. So we're walking down the street and Joel's standing outside. And he said, "Oh, my two best customers are here." Oh, we felt very important all of a sudden. So we went in, and after the set, they came out and said, Joel said, "You guys need a job?" Fred said, "Yeah." So Fred took a job as a waiter. I had to go back to school, but as the season ended for school, Fred was on his way to Cape Cod. He comes through Missouri. He says, "Come on to Cape Cod with me." I said, "Man, I'm low on cash." And Fred's car just broke down. So I went to Fred. I said, "Fred, I'll sell you my car." He said, "Okay." I said, "Thank you. Now I got some money to go to Cape Cod with you." So we went to Cape Cod, and I started working at the Mustache, but I'm trying to think the manager's name up for that summer '65. Anyway, he said, "I don't have any waiter's job, but can you park cars, in the parking lot?" So yeah, I started parking cars in the parking lot. Finally, I got inside the club to become a waiter and started moving along then. And Fred and I spent the whole summer up there. And I was loading up a picture, but it didn't load up. When you went to Cape Cod and you're from out of state to work this summer, you had to go down and have a mug shot take as a non-resident to work there. And I found that it looked like a real mug shot, and I was going to jail or something. But anyway, Fred and I headed back down to New Orleans. And the way down there, people said, "Where are you going?" "We're going to New Orleans." "So New Orleans is gone." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "But Betsy come through and destroyed it." So everyone was telling us, well, we didn't believe that. And we got there, and Dave Ryle was the manager, and a bunch of those guys from the East Coast were down there running it. Brian Wallace and some of the other guys, I can't remember the names now. Anyway, so that's how it got started. And Joe and I became sort of friends, which I started traveling with him. And next thing I know, I was running a club here, and he called me from Chicago. The manager was sick, said, "You got to leave." And I was in Denver running that club. He said, "You got to," so I had to go drive to Chicago in my little MGB and start running the club there. one day I come and said, Joe, it's too cold up here. I gotta go back to New Orleans. So well, stay a couple more weeks. And I said, okay. So then I headed back down to New Orleans and kept working for Joe for about 10 years. And it's the greatest job I ever had.
Well, Ken, how did you end up at Mustache?
Well, I'll tell that story in just a second, but Roger, Fred Hendricks' brother's name was John, right? He was the minister of youth and music. He was a pastor.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was the pastor of youth and music in my church, First Baptist Church of Bolivar, Missouri, when I was in high school. And so so you guys sang in the Baptist church choir. I never did that, but my mom did run the First Baptist Church as the hostess, et cetera, et cetera. But so to get to New Orleans, Tom and I were on our way to, I think it was Guatemala, to spend the summer or some crazy shit. And we stopped in New Orleans, met a beautiful girl, and spent a night or two or three or four or five. And then we wrecked our van. Tom made an illegal left turn in front of a carload of black kids going the wrong way on a one-way street. And they crashed into our van. So we had to, this gal's name was Barbara. We had to go, we were staying with her. So we had to stay there. Our van was wrecked. And she said, I'll get you a job at your father's mustache. And so she took us in, and you and David were there. And it's kind of like Billy said, you got a white shirt and a tie, come to work. And so we did. And it was, we stayed on top of the mustache sometimes. We went in and out for a while, and it was marvelous. But my mom was concerned that I was working on Bourbon Street. And then I told her, don't worry, Fred Hendricks, John Hendricks' brother, was the manager of this very nice sing-along place on Bourbon Street. And she said, well, that must be okay then. I didn't tell her the rest of the stories about Fred that I had heard. I didn't have any firsthand experience, but but that soothed her worries because John Hendricks' brother Fred had worked there.
Probably didn't sing her the alternate lyrics to Nothing Can Be Finer either.
I did not sing all of those, and I did not send her pictures of us dancing on the bar. I didn't even tell her we served beer, because in the Baptist culture, that was not good. So it was, but it was, I never thought that, having John Hendricks as the minister of youth and music at the First Baptist Church in Bolivar, Missouri, would get me out of hot water with my mom in New Orleans. And
You didn't tell her about the happy hours. Huh?
I'm sorry? I did not tell her about the Keith Orston Award, nor other things.
Oh, no.
Well, we also lucked out, because if we'd have went to Guatemala, I don't think we'd be here anymore. Luckily we got to New Orleans and got these jobs and stayed there.
Yeah. Well, it was good that we crashed, because somebody, I forget who it was, maybe it's Bob Osborne or someone, said, you guys would have gotten about 100 miles in into Mexico. You had a van, you had longish hair, and you had a van with California plates, and they would have robbed you and killed you. So it was fortuitous how we crashed the van, and so life is this interesting thing, right? It's like, I like watching that show with Jimmy Stewart every It's a Wonderful World every year, because every turn in the road you take, it was horrible, the mustache burned down, but I had to get a job down the street. That's where I met my wife. We've been together almost 50 years.
Went to Houlihan's, right?
Houlihan's.
No, I went to the haberdashery first for about 4 or 5 months, and my wife was down from Minnesota training the bookkeeper there, because she worked in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. That was part of the Radisson Hotel chain. And then I was there for about 6 months, and then I left and got hired at Houlihan's. So I never would have ended up in Colorado, where I've been since 1977. Got transferred here because I got transferred to Dallas, and then I got transferred to Colorado. I never would have had this adventure, the life that I've had here in Colorado, without the mustache burning down.
Yeah.
So y'all both date.
Bad news, good news. It's this life is this incredible adventure.
Both of y'all met wives.
I would be like, well, would you change anything? And I said, hell, number one, I can't. But number two, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You were
Right,
telling
so-
about going to Guatemala and how dangerous it could be, or when you got to Mexico. I've traveled to Mexico one time for 2 months, one time for 3 months, drove all the way to Costa Rica, and another time for 2 months driving around. And I realized that for a while we treated so nice, on the front of my van, I lived in Vancouver, British Columbia. I bought this van, and the British Columbia license plate was on it. It had no year on it, so I never changed it. I left it on there for years, and I had a Vancouver driver's license, and we put a smiley face on the front of the van, Edward and Krebs and I. And everybody's nice. That's God, these people treat us so nice. They didn't know we were Americans. They thought we were Canadian. And I kept that
Well, I had a
license
friend
plate
that
on.
I went.
I
I
still
had a
have
friend that I
the
went to college with. He and his wife went on their honeymoon in 72 or 73 to Mexico. They bought one joint, not a pound of pot, one joint, and they hadn't smoked it yet. They were headed to the beach and they got stopped by the police. They got arrested. They let her go. He spent 2 years in a Mexican prison. His parents paid $100,000 in bribes to get him out.
Jeez,
Wow.
An expensive
Yeah.
figure.
That was crazy shit.
that's right. It could be dangerous down there.
Okay, well, we got everybody's story, but Emily, you got to tell us how you met Joel.
Yeah.
I met him in 1961 or two, maybe three, when I'd moved to New Haven with my husband and my two little boys, who were 3 and 1 at the time. And we moved into a neighborhood where a bunch of people our same age with little kids just had moved in together. And someone knew about the Galvanized Jazz Band where they played at the Mill Pond Tavern. And at least once a month, maybe twice a month, we would go out together as a group, get babysitters, and go dance to Joel's music. And that's how I met him. And then later, I didn't see him for a while because after the mustache closed, all the mustaches closed, he came back to New Haven to preserve the downtown, which was basically a slum at the time. There was one restaurant in the entire downtown of New Haven. And so he was doing that. And I, meanwhile, had gotten a job with the city doing harbor development. I had an environmental science degree from Yale and was running the harbor. And so, all the development people, Joel would be in City Hall a lot. And then he was courting my neighbor, Craig Grant, or I forget her last name. Anyway, Schiavone. And then when he would come down and, he walked with his head forward. You remember that walk? He always kind of charged ahead. She wasn't there. He'd come talk to me. So we got to be friends. And then New Haven's just, we'd see each other a lot at various functions and city events and so forth. So we were just good friends. And then when his wife was in jail, would call me and we would go for a walk around the park or something just to get exercise. And we just became very close friends, but there's nothing romantic. And then he got divorced. And one night I had moved into an apartment from my home to downsize, and because I was 70 something. And I went to the theater one night, to the Yale Rep, and with a friend from the building, and when sit down, who should be sitting right in front of me but Joel. We got talking, of course, and the next morning he called me on the phone and said, let's go to take a boat ride from the ferry to bridge over to Long Island. And we were never apart any day since then.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah.
Right.
Great.
Right.
Oh, Rick, I forgot you. Well, how did you get that mustache?
Well, I moved down to New Orleans to go to Tulane, and I was looking for a part-time job, and heard the music out, went inside, and then I guess Fred or Bruce actually hired, just like Bill, just got it. Then I stayed there, and that's it. stayed in New Orleans until it burned down. Then I finally got a real job. Although,
real job.
but the best job, like I say, just like everybody said, the best job.
I hate those real jobs.
Yeah.
Mustang, nothing tops it.
Yeah. Well, look at us. We're still talking to each other.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, Gim left and Ira left. I guess they went off to.
They went to meet each other around the
Yeah.
corner for a beer.
Meet each other behind the pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay, well, next week, I have to be on the airplane going back on Thursday, so I'm not sure. So we're not going to do and Bill's going to be out of town, so we're not going to do the Zoom next week. So we're going to skip it to the following week. Yeah, this time coming in, I came in yesterday in the plane, and we almost didn't land in New Orleans. We almost ended up in Jackson, Mississippi, because the weather was so bad.
Oh, man.
Jackson or Birmingham, and I'm like, oh God, that would be tough. But then they skirted it.
It's some bad
So
weather.
Billy and Tom, I've got 40 videos that are bigger than 25 megabytes each. So if you give me a Dropbox,
I'm sorry.
And they're all-
I didn't
yeah,
do it
that's
this
okay.
week.
I know.
I'll work on it, get it to you.
Yeah, those are all of the the hotel, the rehearsal, and then I think probably the concert too. I forget as a while ago, but I'd be glad to send those because nobody's seen it but me. So
No, we need something new, so that's good. I'll send you
Yeah,
something.
okay.
I'll figure out how to do it.
okay, yeah,
And Gim, we're gonna skip next week because I got to take the plane back.
Aha.
traveling back, and Bonnie and I are going to make a short trip. So,
Yeah.
no, that was anyway. What you got there? It looks like something pointy there again.
This thing?
Oh,
Oh, a thermometer for the meat. You're cooking dinner.
Yeah, exactly right. We got a monsoon here now, and I'm trying to get in cook this steak in between storms.
I didn't know you had monsoons up there.
Well, thanks to climate change, we're getting all kinds of things we never had before.
Yeah.
That's true. So
And
true.
you're only 35 miles away and it's clear and beautiful here. The sun's
Well,
still. That's amazing.
It was like that about 2 hours ago here, but not now.
That's
Coming
what
your
we got.
way. Coming your way.
All right, Ken, I'll send you. I promise I'll send
Okay.
something
all right,
because
okay, whenever.
and
I got them. They ain't going anywhere now that I found them.
okay. Great.
18 years,
Thanks
so
for finding
not bad. All right, hey, I enjoyed the stories. Thanks, you guys.
It was good.
Yeah.
Good
Okay.
fun. Good
Good to
fun.
see
Thanks, everybody.
It was great hearing all this.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Bill. Y'all take care.
Good
Thank
fun.
you, guys.
We'll
Okay.
talk, Bill. Let me know what.
All right.
Okay.
So everybody, bye.
All
Bonsoir.
right, be safe.
Later.
How's that shot there again?
You bet.
Okay. It's a white smoke today.
White smoke, right?
And it wasn't Trump. There you go. Okay. All right.
I'll see you guys later.